Core values of Rabindranath Tagore. Did you know that Rabindranath Tagore was never trying to become a public icon, yet the world turned him into one? Do you now begin to see why he never fully belonged to institutions, movements, or even nations, even while shaping all of them? Tagore's life is not the story of power, politics, or conquest. It is the story of how a deeply sensitive inner world slowly disciplined itself into timeless creation. Let's walk this rigorously through his natal chart, external value system, and his Navamsha, internal value system, because Tagore is one of the clearest examples of how a soul matures from inspiration into responsibility without losing its poetry. External core values, natal chart, D1, how the world experienced Tagore. Pisces Ascendant, a life that never fully belonged with Pisces rising, Tagore entered the world as a liminal being, someone who stood between worlds, between art and philosophy, between devotion and rebellion, between tradition and radical thought. Externally, people experienced him as ethereal, ungraspable, fluid. Pisces ascendants don't walk a straight road. They flow. This is why Tagore resisted rigid labels: poet, nationalist, mystic, reformer. None were complete. His external core value was simple yet profound. Life must feel meaningful, not mechanical. This is why he walked away from knighthood, why he questioned nationalism, why he refused to let art become propaganda. Sun in Aries, external status. Through creative courage, Tagore's natal sun in Aries explains why, despite his softness, he was never passive. Externally, his status came from initiating new forms of expression, challenging stale traditions, daring to speak what had not yet been spoken. Aries sun gives creative bravery. Tagore did not wait for cultural permission. He started movements in literature, music, education, simply because something inside him said, "This must exist." This is why his poetry felt alive, not ornamental. It carried force, not decoration. But Aries also carries a shadow, the burden of always going first. Tagore often stood alone, not because he wanted solitude, but because pioneers rarely have company. Moon in Pisces. Emotional identity seen by the world with Moon in Pisces, the world perceived Tagore as deeply compassionate, emotionally porous, universally empathetic. People didn't just read him, they felt seen by him. This moon dissolves boundaries. It absorbs suffering, beauty, longing, and devotion without filtering. Externally, his emotional core value was, feeling is sacred. But Pisces moon also means emotional exhaustion. This explains the recurring themes of melancholy, longing, and transcendence in his work. He wasn't dramatizing pain, he was processing collective emotion. Do you now understand why his writing feels personal even when it speaks for humanity? Action and intellect. Mars in Gemini, Mercury in Aries. Tagore's Mars in Gemini shows action through ideas, language, debate, and experimentation. His battles were not fought with fists, but with essays, songs, stories, and educational models. His Mercury in Aries made his thinking bold, original, and unapologetic. He didn't revise himself to fit others' comfort. When an idea arrived, he spoke it plainly, even if it unsettled the audience. Externally, this created a paradoxical image: gentle voice, radical thought, soft delivery, disruptive content. Internal core values, Navamsha, who Tagore became over time. Now we move to the quieter truth. As Tagore matured through loss, aging, recognition, and inner solitude, his Navamsha Ascendant in Pisces remained, but everything inside deepened and disciplined. The dreamer did not disappear. He became accountable to his own depth. Moon in Capricorn, Navamsha, emotional maturity through structure. Internally, Tagore's emotional truth shifted to Capricorn Moon. This is crucial. While the world saw an endlessly flowing poet, inside he needed routine, discipline, structure to hold the flood of feeling. This is why Tagore was astonishingly productive. Capricorn Moon does not wait for mood, it builds containers for emotion. His internal core value became, emotion must serve creation, not consume the self. This explains why, later in life, his work gained philosophical gravity and restraint. Less emotional overflow, more distilled wisdom. Sun with Rahu in Scorpio, Navamsha. Internal authority, through depth in Navamsha, Tagore's sun moves into Scorpio, joined by Rahu. Internally, his sense of authority transformed into psychological depth, confronting taboo, death, desire, transformation, willingness to sit with darkness without romanticizing it. Scorpio sun does not perform, it penetrates. Rahu amplifies this into a karmic demand. You must go where others are afraid to look. This is why Tagore's later works feel more introspective, more existential, sometimes unsettling. He was no longer writing to inspire alone, he was writing to understand life itself. Venus and Mars in Libra Navamsha. Mature creation through balance. Internally, both Venus and Mars shift into Libra. This is profound. The youthful Aries initiator evolves into a relational, aesthetic, ethical creator. Libra values harmony, proportion, dialogue. Creation is no longer about self-expression, it becomes about resonance. This is where Tagore becomes timeless. His mature internal value was, beauty must restore balance between self and other, art and society, emotion and intellect. This is why his songs still feel relevant across generations and cultures. They are not bound to a moment, they are calibrated to human rhythm. Jupiter in Aquarius Navamsha, inner dharma of humanity. Tagore's Jupiter in Aquarius internally anchors his deepest wisdom in universal humanism, education as liberation, thinking beyond nation, caste, or ideology. This is the philosophical foundation of Visva Bharati. He was not building an institution, he was building a future consciousness. Karmic axis, Rahu in Scorpio, Ketu in Taurus, Navamsha. Internally, Tagore's karmic lesson was clear. Move away from comfort, predictability, and aesthetic safety. Taurus Ketu, toward transformation, truth, and inner confrontation, Scorpio Rahu. This is why his later years were less about pleasure and more about inquiry. He was not settling, he was shedding. Truth, Rabindranath Tagore's life teaches us this. Externally, he lived as a sensitive visionary who challenged form. Internally, he matured into a disciplined, psychologically deep, ethically balanced creator. He felt deeply, but learned to structure feeling. He created boldly, but refined creation through harmony. He rejected shallow nationalism, but embraced universal human responsibility. He was not here to lead crowds. He was here to tune the human soul. Do you now understand why Tagore doesn't feel historical, but eternal? Because some lives are not meant to be remembered, they are meant to be returned to. I shall see you in the next core value analysis of another luminary. Meanwhile, take care and be safe.